What's going on, 49er faithful, 49er fan, 49er gang? This is your boy, Niner Gang Podcast, back in the building. Definitely hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn on the post notifications so I can keep you up to date on any and everything NFL and any and everything San Francisco 49ers. With that being said, let's get right on into it, man. This week, we had some serious beatdowns, and there were a lot of them, like teams getting blown out here. And I consider blowouts to be usually at least about 20 points or more. No hope, no chance for you to get back in the game, and nothing you can really do about what these teams have done. So this isn't going to be a long, ridiculous video. It's probably going to be very quick. But let's take a look at it, man. So let's talk about the beatdown of the week. The first beatdown was handed out by the Chargers, laying the smackdown on the candy ass of the Vikings. Pause. 37-10. 27 points, butt whooping by the Vikings. Didn't score in the first quarter or the fourth quarter, while the Chargers bottled up and sent a lightning strike to the Vikings that sunk their ship. Minnesota's offense didn't even break the 200-yard mark in total yards. Kudos to the Chargers defense. The next beatdown of the week came from a team that no one expected. It was the Dolphins. Yes, you heard it right. The Dolphins beating down the Falcons. A 24-point butt whooping, just where the Falcons couldn't score in the first or third quarters. Tua threw 4 TDs, had no interceptions, and was sacked only once in this game. We all know that's a stat line that's very rare for Tua Tagovailoa. Which is a stat line we haven't seen from him in a while. Great win for the Dolphins. They showed that the Falcons may fly high in the sky, but this time you came too close to the water. And if they say, if you can't swim, your ass is bound to drizzle. The next beatdown of the week comes from the high-flying New England Patriots, a 19-point smackdown on the candy ass of the Browns. In a game where Myles Garrett went off for 5 sacks, somehow, with that stat line, the Browns still lost. But no one feels bad for Myles Garrett. He stayed for the money, and if he was smart, he would have left knowing the Browns had no aspirations of winning. Hell, the head coach can't even name a backup quarterback. So there are major issues, but the Patriots tamed and trained the dogs. This one, put them outside in the doghouse with no treats and just water. The next beatdown of the week goes to the Philadelphia Eagles, laying the smackdown on the candy ass of the divisional opponent Giants. The Giants lost Scatterboo in this game to a broken ankle, and the Eagles flew high with 4 TDs from Hurts and a 100-yard game from Saquon. There was no stopping this team. Another beatdown came from the Bills to the Panthers. This was a massacre, a 31-point L taken by the Panthers. Buffalo forced several fumbles and made Andy Dalton look like a backup. And now in the Wild Kingdom, usually you never see a Buffalo versus a Panther. But for the most part, in this case, it was a stampede that the Panthers can only run away from. Another divisional beatdown came from the Bucs beating on them Saints. Now the Saints always say, who that say they're going to beat them Saints? Well, 7 out of 8 teams have said, we that. I'm just saying. The Saints scored in the second quarter and only got a field goal. The Bucs laid the smackdown on their candy ass and partied on Bourbon Street right after with a 20-point win. Good Lord, the Saints have gone back to being the Aints. They have no hope this year. The next beatdown was to the so-called America's team, the good old Dallas Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? Losing by 22 points. Had Bo Nix and the crew looking like stars. Not to say that they aren't, but this just shows the Cowboys defense is hot garbage and worse without Micah Parsons. Both teams scored in every quarter, but the difference is the Broncos scored touchdowns in all but the third quarter. Well, while this was a super twist of events, Cowboys usually ride horses. Instead, these Broncos showed they are wild and couldn't be broken. Cowboys suck. The next beatdown goes to the Titans. Unfortunately, but what's new with this one? One of the worst teams in the league, along with the Saints and the Jets. A 24-point smackdown laid on their candy ass. Now, a Colt is a horse, and a Titan is a mythical entity. The Colts basically said, you're not real, but your players are, and we will show them why on the backs of some fantastic Colts we will be the demigods to destroy your world. The final beatdown of the week came from the Chiefs to the Commanders. Now, this can be a twist in the story. It could have previously been a battle of native tribes on American soil, but the Chiefs switched it up and told the Commanders, you came to our land, but with this ass whooping, we'll send you back to your land so you can spread the word to the world. We will not be conquered, and we don't need anything from you. The Chiefs proceeded with a war cry and threw touchdowns and ran all over them for almost 432 yards of offense. Now, I just want y'all to understand those were the smackdowns of the week, and each of those teams deserve what they got. Thank you very much for tuning in. This was always a short video. Be back next week with more.